but I'm trying to make applies every day. And at the last week, I got one technical task. One company sent me the one task, and I solve it and send them. Now I'm waiting response.
Okay. Perfecto. Okay. Cool. Let's get going then. If everyone else, you guys can use the chat in Zoom to share about your progress and where you guys are falling short. But what I'm thinking now is I will be like, if you think about, there are two ways to look at it. When you think about like the whole course, yeah, there is a lot of stuff to learn, but then once you guys have learned it all, now, if you look back, there is not much you guys are interviewed on, right? Okay, I will say Java OOP. Probably that's like one of the most popular technical questions. Then you have Selenium. You have SQL and API and CI/CD. CI/CD, and from soft skills, it's really like your STLC. Do you guys agree? This is pretty much the stuff you have to know. Not many, right? Like each of these really, couple questions from each of these ones. And in API, obviously you have like Linux and Docker. Okay. So this one, again, yeah, like if you start diving deeper, they are kind of big, but whenever you are looking at it from learning from scratch perspective, it's big, but when you are looking at it from as a retrospect, it's not a lot of stuff, really. So it's doable, just I believe there is no need to run after new tools or new knowledge. I believe it's better to refine your knowledge on these topics. Just keep getting better on these 6 topics. You'll do amazing. Okay. This is, I think, like there are parallels with business too. You always have this desire to launch new products and this and that. But a lot of times in business, just like if you just keep improving your very small focused product, let's say for us, okay, we want to launch DevOps course, data analytics course, this and that. But a lot of times, like just do very limited number of courses, but do them so good, it gives better results. Same for you guys. There are obviously new tools you could be learning, but just be so good with these tools, and you will crack the interviews for sure. Okay, so today's focus is on the backend. We will talk about so where are we gonna start? Let's talk about API testing first. Okay. And the approach is as usual. I will be calling out names. Please send a plus sign if you guys have finished 25 weeks. So, I can call you to interview. Okay. Okay, I see Dennis. Dennis, I know you graduated, so let's start from you. Can you, Dennis, are you here? You are on mute. Let me know if you need help with unmuting yourself. Okay, you are getting there. Julius, almost there. Denise. Okay, there you go. Changing laptops. In the meantime, no, we don't hear you yet. Connecting your audio. Okay, try now. Okay, not yet. We'll let you figure out your audio. Jigit?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, let's go. Can you please tell me about your most recent project? So most recent backend project, okay?
Okay, so I have worked on API testing on my project, and I used restful, postman, and restassured library. And I also developed automation framework from scratch several times. I have successfully designed, excuse me, I have successfully designed and developed many test scripts by using data-driven, behavioral-driven, and um, deployment. And I developed my testing frameworks based on page object model, which supports BDD. I can add that my framework supports database testing using JDBC. Okay, this is general information.
Okay. Worked on API testing on my project. I used RESTful, Postman, restassured library, developed automation framework from scratch, successfully designed many test cases, data-driven, BDD, page object model with BDD. My framework supports. Okay, question to everybody, guys. Do you see any red flags here? Any red flags here?
Do you hear me now?
Yep, we hear you now.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. So, yeah, from my perspective, it sounds a bit like bookish, and it would be better to start with the star approach and mention something that you're already working on. So I would start with my last feature was like that one. We had manual test case, which is approved, which is frequently running, and we just started to automate it from that and back.
Yep, for sure. I mean, those are like more room for improvement type of things, but do you see any like obvious red flags, like no things?
I have some experience in backend right now. I don't see any. So Jigit didn't say anything about backend actually. He just mentioned about restassured libraries. That's all.
And sorry, page object model with BDD. I suppose we don't use any UI here when we're talking about backend. We avoid any graphic interfaces. We do directly.
Yep. Page object model is used with Selenium, right?
Right.
So UI. So like it's definitely not backend. So this is one red flag. For people who have experience with UI and backend automation, they will notice this right away. So page object model is only used with Selenium, guys. Don't mess it with backend. Okay. Page object model is only used with Selenium for UI automation. Okay.
Jigit, the guy who has written maybe 50 test cases using Selenium, so she's I don't know, she's obsessed with
Yeah,
that type of.
that was UI tests.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, that's why he mentioned probably.
So UI is great, right? Whenever you guys are learning, probably Selenium is everyone's favorite tool because you see stuff, right? How it's working, how things are moving and stuff. So it's exciting. I remember it. But in the real world, guys, UI is just very small number of the work done in the industry because like really if you think about UI, it's display stuff, click couple buttons and send the information to the backend, and in the backend all the magic happens. The backend applications are gonna take the data, pull the data from database, compare, do some calculations, this and that, wrap the message, encrypt it, decrypt it, and then save it in the database or like, send it to a different microservice. So most of the stuff happens in the backend, and I would say in bigger corporations, out of all software engineers, probably 80% are backend and 20% are front end. And same thing with the automation. Same thing with the automation engineers, right? Also, there are levels in QA. Like this is the funny part about QA too, because there are lots of levels. There are manual QAs. There are manual QAs basically who are not so untechnical, right? They just know how to write test cases and execute them. Boom. It's great. It's a very valuable job. Then there are another level manual QAs who know some, technical like backend stuff or whatever. Then there are automation engineers who can write automation scripts, but that's it. They don't deal with CI/CD. They don't deal with the deployment process, troubleshooting, and all that stuff. And there are automation engineers who are more hands-on on the deployment stuff too. So, and the most technical, the best SDETs are somebody who have strong backend experience. When I say backend, I'm talking about API, actually can do stuff with the deployment stuff, servers, Linux operating systems, a bit of CI/CD, and maybe like cloud. So, but in your long term, guys, once you get a job too, right? What's your development path? Like when you get a job, what do you learn? I highly suggest like learning DevOps stuff because that's when you become a world-class, irreplaceable as that engineer. Cool. So yeah, other stuff.
Okay, Askar, I have another more detailed project. So as I work, I'm working finance field. I have project. It's related with the bank system. It's a loan application processing system. This project involved automating the processing of loan application. Customers could apply for loans through the app, and the system would automatically verify their creditworthiness, calculate interest rates, and generate offers. And I automated the testing of all stages of loan processing, including credit history verification and interest rate calculations. What do you think about this project? Is it much with my like with the field where I work in too?
What do you mean, does it match with the field?
I mean, if I work in the bank company, is it a good project example?
Yeah, it's great project example for sure. Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Cool. Cool. So yeah. Now one of my other feedbacks is, hold on, I will find something on 20%. Where's 20%? So in the last class, this is what I shared. Where did it go? Andrew, tell me about yourself. Hold on, let me now find Jigit. Okay, here you go. So other feedback here. Correct answer, you only get 20%, right? And then energy, I don't know, your energy is not clicking with me, Jigit. Either it's a language thing or just energy exciting thing, but definitely, what is it called? Your voice, right? I don't feel this confidence or whatever it is.
Okay.
So, and also speed. Speed is very important, right? This is all like basic communication skills. I want your answers to be, that's why you have to memorize. This course is a lot about memorizing, guys. As I said, like, look, 6 topics you have to memorize answers. Can you tell me about your project? This should have been memorized already. You don't need to, like, I don't want you to go and be creative here. There are a set of questions that gonna be 100% asked. At least those questions you should be going fast. Okay? Because I mean, like, even if you ask me about, hey, tell me about like my real self, my life, I'm gonna take time and think, and like at the end of the day, it's gonna be very chaotic explanation of my life. But if I write it down and write it down, structure it, and memorize it, it's gonna be very impressive, fast, time efficient answer. Or tell me about myself. And so energy was not there. Communication skills, just like I said, like one of my biggest problems was that a little bit too slow. And experience, expertise, okay. You kind of told the tools, but you just listed stuff. You said, okay, worked on API on my project. I used RESTful, Postman, restassured library. You just listed the names. What did you use it for? Hey, I used RESTful application because why? Why did you use RESTful APIs? Why did you use Postman? Why did you use restassured library? Developed automation from scratch. Why did you develop automation from scratch? Because, I don't know, was there an automation framework that when you joined you didn't like and you decided to change it? Or it was a new project? Then successfully designed many test scripts, data-driven. Okay, what is data-driven? Why does it even matter? Why are you bringing it up? Because this and that, right? I did also BDD. So what? Why did you do BDD? In interviews, like, I think when you watch a lot of people, they will say in the interviews, the goal of the interviews is to understand your reasoning. Not necessarily your accomplishments, but also like, what's your reasoning, right? And then here, for all of these things that you are listing, give me some reasoning behind why you are using it, right? So it gives me, then my framework supports DB testing. Why are you even doing DB testing? Right? So you need to dive deep right away from the start. And don't wait for the interviewer to take the knowledge. Basically, you are telling me, you are putting me in an asker position. Like, I need to ask from you. I need to ask you, please tell me what you know, please. Right? So that's on the expertise wise. You just listed, so it didn't really show off your expertise, and you know all of this stuff. How memorable are you? How interesting are you? Storytelling. And this one was not storytelling at all. So, yeah. Cool. Okay. Dennis, let's go. Same question. Can you tell me about your most recent backend project?
Sure. So I recently joined, as you know, I work, my current company is Zillow. So that's the real estate marketplace. And I recently joined the new team, which is working on a Zillow project management microservice. This team already had like several manual cases, but they didn't start automating, and we joined this team and started automation process with API test first of all, because in our from our company perspective, we have to build as much unit tests and APIs tests, and then only it looks like a testing pyramid. So majority of tests, they are on the shoulders of the developers, unit tests. Then we build as much as possible API tests because they're fast, they're efficient, and only then we start like automating UI part of our framework. So what we started with, that's the main feature of our microservice that's the adding properties. We do that for our main customers, that's property owners or property managers, and we make sure that they can add their property easily, and all that behind the scenes happens because of magic API. As I mentioned, that team already had manual testers, so we already have a solid base of manual tests, which they should run frequently. They are designed for stable features, so that's just the right time to start automating them. Let's say I have one test case which we agreed to automate. First of all, I want to make sure that it works. I read the requirements. If everything is clear, that I start to reproduce these test case via postman. But if it's not clear, I just ask a lot of questions, my peers, my SMEs people, just to clarify that I understand right, what was written. And then, like if you're talking about UI tests, here we use browsers. Instead of browsers, when we're talking about API, we use postman. So I try to follow all the documentation available, whatever it is, Notion file or Swagger documentation from developers. I just manually reproduce all the steps, including all the REST API methods. I checked the response, the body of the response, the code status, the performance, and also I compare it with the expected result. How fast we're gonna get this response. What fields are gonna be in the payload. So once the manual part is done, I'm sure that it's working. I start to create a Cucumber feature file, because here on the project, on this particular project, we use Java-based Cucumber, Selenium, and API tools framework. So the beginning of the automation, that's creating the Cucumber file. Once here in this part of the automation test creation, I write the feature file that's understandable. It bridges the gaps between technical and untechnical members of our team. So I make sure that it's understandable and it fits the scripts I already read from the manual QAs. Once it's clear, once I have written all the possible scenarios, I mentioned all the edge cases, like where so I try to read as many scenarios as possible, even if they are not mentioned in the documentation. Then I make sure that all the utilities class I have in place, such as I have database connection installed correctly. I have all the models in place, because I'm gonna like serialize and deserialize data from JSON files. I'm gonna send, and I'm gonna send and get, so responses and requests. Also, I have to make sure that all the configuration, so the property file on our app is does have all the credentials I have to my own database for my it consists of all the URLs I need to get to send request I need and to get response I need. Once all the utilities classes are in place, I start to create step definition class, which translate the Gherkin language from Cucumber file to the Java programming language. Here I use a lot of stuff related to data-driven development, because I need to like convert the data from my Cucumber file to POJEs, to objects in plain Java language, and then I'm gonna run the test as frequent as possible, because I want to make sure that it's gonna be the build is smooth. Every single step I automate, I run, I make sure that's passing, add one more and one more. Also, once I have everything written in the steps cases in the step definition class, I start adding assertions. So that's the main part where I'm gonna compare the expected result and actual result. Here we use JUnit library and that kind of assertions. And once I make sure that all the Cucumber file I written is matches with the step definition class, everything runs smoothly, I just make a pull request, and then like send a message to my team lead that here I just finished the test automation, and I requested pull request. Please review my code. That's pretty easy about the first part of test automation, like related to API testing.
Perfect. Awesome. I love it. Definitely Amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna rate on the same approach, right? Answer, definitely everything you said is correct. I didn't see any red flags. Like red flags meaning things that just don't make sense. Everything was good on that side. Energy is definitely great. I was intact with your energy. Communication skills. I could definitely, the speed was good, the flow was good. I could understand you well. Pronunciation and all that stuff. So you got 60 so far. Experience and expertise, I think you did dive pretty deep into everything. So also 20. How memorable are you? Definitely 20 on that too, because everything was smooth storytelling. You started from one spot and then you took me deep into the oceans, as Habib Nurmagomedov says. Cool.
Thank you. Thank you. But I'm a bit nervous because that's just it takes just number of repetition.
Yes.
The more you present yourself, the more confident you become.
Yeah, have notes, guys. Sticky notes, or like even a notebook or something. When I was interviewing first time, when I was getting my first job in tech, every interview, my laptop was whole in like I probably had about 10 notes all on the edges of my laptop. On like these questions that are the most popular. So that I was asked. So yeah, you know, it's okay to use notes just to help you make sure. Like I still take notes whenever I have like very important meetings. It's totally fine because basically that helps you just bullet points, right? So at least you know what to cover next. Like for example, say requirements. Tell me about your project notes should have requirements. It should have postman, swagger, cucumber, then what are you saying? Edge cases, utility classes, models, or pojos, right? Then property file for configurations or just configuration file, step devs, data-driven development. Then what else? JUnit and PR, right? Like that will basically help you follow the flow. Cool. Cool. Okay, what are the improvements? Browser versus Postman, like I think that was a little bit unnecessary explanation. Basically, you are explaining what is Postman to your interviewers, right?
Yep.
Some people could take it offensive.
Okay.
So no need to explain like what is Postman. Like whatever you are explaining, it shouldn't be like the purpose shouldn't be to kind of teach them what it is, but more like why I do it. So the purpose of you telling about this stuff is you are sharing the reasoning why you used it. Not like, hey, this is Postman, this is browser. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And also it depends on the person who are you in front of. So for example, if it's recruiter, I can do some like I can say something simpler.
Yes.
If it's I'm on the technical round, of course I should be more like technical.
Yep. No, this is like technical round interview. Okay, so that was one. Second one, I think it's nothing wrong or anything, but like when you said data-driven development, I have to convert the data from Cucumber file to Pojo. Amazing, but Cucumber file, what exactly in Cucumber file?
I should mention here not the data from Cucumber file. I should mention here database connection or mocking the data. And it should be just mentioned in the Cucumber file, but the real work it should be related to database.
No.
No?
No. Where do you guys get the data for data-driven development in feature files?
Using the data table transformers.
Data tables, right? So that's what I want to hear. Convert the data from Cucumber feature
Data table?
file data tables, yes. Tables to Pojo. Whenever it comes to Cucumber, guys, data tables are the best. People who use data tables well are the best Cucumber users. So funny, like how I see Cucumber being misused a lot by fresh grads or like people in general, even who are building. Yeah. Like if you are, and then like they will hate Cucumber because they don't see no value. But the biggest and coolest value of Cucumber comes from building amazing data tables for data-driven development, data-driven testing. And second amazing feature of Cucumber feature files is that you build as dynamic steps as possible so that you can reuse it in so many different scenarios. Like whenever you're creating new scenario, whenever you're creating a new step, you should think about, okay, where else can this be used and what can I parameterize, right? Make it dynamic so I can reuse it in so many different places. Like you shouldn't create one step and one step definition for every single steps. Then it makes no sense. The whole purpose of Cucumber is outside of what you guys know very well, making it helps non-technical people understand your test cases or like even like understand the application, the behavior of the application. But from technical perspective, the just two amazing features of Cucumber is one, amazing support for data-driven development through data tables or scenario outlines. And two, you can build very dynamic steps and step definitions that can be reused by so many test cases. So code reusability is one of the top features of Cucumber. Like you can actually, I think like Cucumber is one of these tools that are very highly debated still, right? So you can show some admiration to Cucumber. Like if you have to show some admiration, I would say show admiration to Cucumber and show admiration to, yeah, I would say like definitely show admiration, but you can definitely choose like pick some tools. I would say Cucumber, you can show admiration to, you can show admiration to configuration files. You can show admiration to PR stage, right? That, hey, like, you know, how you admire PR stage because every time you create a PR, you can get a lot of nice feedbacks on improving your code and making it more reusable, easily maintainable by your other team members. And I also, whenever I am a reviewer on a PR, I also love giving reviews. So like picking one or two tools where you actually share your admiration for those stages, I think like it also adds this little bit of sprinkles or like cherry on top of your cake. Swagger. You can show admiration for Swagger. Yeah, Swagger, like I really love this tool actually because you know, it's a living document, right? Something like that. I love Swagger more than anything because, you know, when Swagger is built right, all of the API documentation is really handy to you. And like it auto updates itself. you can show admiration to having manual testers and having their test cases. So all you have to do is automate. You can show admiration to API tests. Like you kind of showed it, but even like exaggerated a bit. Okay. Also, I think it was fine, but totally fine. One thing you can add is, like, this is basically public speaking, right? And in public speaking, you need to check the heartbeat of your audience. Is the audience still following you? So like when you talked about all of this stuff, and then you were going into automation part, it's totally fine to pause and say, hey, would you like me to go deeper into my automation process? In most cases, the answer is gonna be yes. But then you justifying your long speech again.
Right.
Because
so to divide it by chunks and engage the audience.
exactly, yeah. Like this could, I think like just splitting it into two is totally fine. Where you're asking, hey,
Right.
yeah, go to automation. It's totally fine. Because like until automation, I was definitely good. I didn't think about anything. And then when it started getting a little bit longer, I started thinking, oh, maybe it's kind of getting a little bit longer. So that's why when you ask that question, that's it. I don't have that in my mind.
Right. Thank you.
Cool. Love it. I mean, this was definitely exemplary answer. Yeah, I nothing much to add. I like the building the pyramid metaphor. It's great. It's definitely not bookish, something from you. So yeah. Cool. So you did okay. Now on the automation, specifically focused on automation, I think I'm missing database validations, right? SQL, and how you write queries and all that stuff. How you like, yeah, do you interact? Does your app have a database connection or no? That's something you missed. And yeah, like for example, definitely I would add automation here before PR. Sorry, SQL.
Right.
So add SQL here. Can you tell me about SQL process? Do you that, yeah, SQL in your automation framework?
Yeah, of course. So like even before I start to analyze the requirements, I make sure that I have the recent application, and on my personal environment, I have all the access to my personal database, which I'm sure nobody can mess around. And as I mentioned before, we have like in our framework several utilities packages, and one of them, that's database. Here I make sure that I can easily establish database connection. And also I have on my local machine, I have installed MySQL Workbench, where I can manually check what's happening behind the scenes. So one thing on the framework, the other thing I can manually check by using simple queries, what's exactly happening for example, when I add a property, I need to make sure that on particular table, like property list, I have added a property. When I write a step where I delete the property, I just check it with my Workbench app that it's deleted. So utility class, all my credentials are mentioned in the property in the property file in my framework. Credentials work fine. connection is established, and I have all the methods I need. So if I want to select anything, I have select method. If I want to update anything, I have update method, which I easily can just call from my utility class, and don't make any difficulties with writing it again and again. And also, sometimes when we write automation cases, we not always use SQL databases. Sometimes we just mock data using Java Faker. That's another approach here I can mention. If you want me to dive deeper on that topic, I could continue.
Cool. Okay, perfect. So with SQL, everything you said is great, but for every topic there is like whenever somebody, like if you ask anybody in the world to interview you on SQL, even for automation roles or even for software engineering roles, nobody will really interview you on your JDBC skills. Generally, SQL is interviewed or assessed, your SQL skills are assessed based upon your query skills.
Okay.
So then like what are the hard topics in SQL query?
Delete versus truncate, joins.
Right? So basically, I want to know if you know joins or not. How well you know joins? If you know joins, I would assume like you know everything else.
Nice. Yeah.
So
whatever you answer here, you should mention that you know joins. So it's gonna avoid you follow up questions about that.
yeah, I want you to build your answer around joins, like wrap your answer around joins. So what I would say is, you know, what did you say here? So for me, I generally strive to build end-to-end test cases where I send a request, API request, and validate response, as well as validate the DB. And in most cases, the DB validation requires writing scripting or writing scripting complex SQL queries with or like scripting SQL queries with complex join statements to get data from multiple related tables. That's it. You just told them. You don't need to talk about JDBC even here.
Right.
Okay.
That's a good point. Yeah, that makes sense, because you're not just sending requests and getting a response. You have to make sure that it does create record in your database or delete the record. So yeah, that's a nice point.
Yep, and in most cases, like this post requests create records in multiple tables based on the relationship.
Right.
In order to validate, you have to do join statement. Cool. Okay. Keep diving deeper. So you covered database. Now you did PR thing. Cool. Now what else are we missing? So you did Cucumber, you did SQL, you did API. I'm missing CI/CD, and I'm missing like deploying the new. So I'm missing CI/CD. Because it's still part of backend. It doesn't matter, like CI/CD, Linux, Docker deployment is basically, this one has to be regardless UI or backend, right?
Yes.
So yeah, you wanna try to add this?
Sure. Let's try. Okay. So.
So your PR is reviewed, the feedback is given, you made addressed the PR reviews or comments, it's approved, you merged it. What happens next?
Yeah, let me start from the high level. Just so in general, in our team we are obsessed with CI/CD practices because that makes our development process, so creation the software, much easier, faster, and the more we automate, the more resources we save. So even before I start any automation, I make sure that I have current instance of the application in my environment. Where did I get it? So, and how it's look like in our team. Usually DevOps do it, but I prefer to understand how it happens in cases where I am stuck, where I blocked. I want to have access to my container, which is deployed on the server, Linux-based server. So I have an access, and I can just check via simple Linux commands what kind of a container I currently have, from which image I just created it, and if I sure that it's the latest one, then I can continue. But sometimes that's pretty often. Then even before I start any automation, my work, my application is not running, and here I need to. I have to be able to troubleshoot when my server, when my container is down. I check the network. I write ps command, which stands for all the processes are running on my container right now. And if it's healthy, it's okay. But if it's not, I just restart my Docker container using command to restart. And sometimes that happens that I just need to reinstall it, reboot it, and I don't want to disturb my DevOps colleagues. I'm able to do it myself via pulling the new image if I need, or just recreate the Docker container from the image I already have by using a command create it, and then I assign the name for the Docker container name. Then I map the ports from the host to my Docker container, and I mentioned the image name. Once I do that in 90 out of 100 cases, I'm able to troubleshoot myself, and if my application instance working, then I can continue. So mainly the CI/CD practices we are implementing in our team consist of 4 main stages. That's just code creation, building, testing, and deployment or release. And we are, as a QA automations, we are mainly involved in testing part. But if you just list all the actions involved in CI/CD process, you can see that it's not just one part. We appear very often. Let me elaborate on that. Do you want me to describe the whole CI/CD process here?
Sure, let's do it.
Yeah. So how it's look like? Developer read the requirement. He understands well what he's going to write. He or she creates the code. And before he make a PR, pull request, he run all the local tests on his local machine, all the unit tests, and if we have some security or compliance requirements, he does it in that part as well. Once the pull request is done, he's waiting for the review for his peers. It's gonna be at least 2 reviews. If he needs to change anything, he does that. If not, it's gonna be just approved, and that part he's able to merge his chunk of the code to the developers branch, and that time, once again, we can trigger the Jenkins job and start testing once again. If everything is all right, at that point we can we can build a jar file, and we are able to deploy it on the QA environment. Once the app on the QA environment, we test everything once again. Then integration environment, the same thing. If everything is all right, if it's not, we're gonna return all everything. Everything goes back, fix the issue, and one more time, the whole procedure is gonna repeat once again. So integration environment, and UAT team is gonna run their test on the UAT environment. And finally, if everything is all right, and the release deadline is scheduled, we press like button to release the app. And on every single stage of this procedure, you see how many times I mentioned word test. So we're pretty involved in CI/CD, and that just makes our life much easier, faster, more efficient.
Perfect.
Yeah, I would say that's it about CI/CD.
Sounds good. Yep, good one. Good job. I like it. Cool. Yep. Perfect. So this is great. Now, the way I would add CI/CD is you added 10 new test cases, the PR is reviewed. Now what you need to, because you are adding these new test cases to a regression, right?
Right.
So, and it's very common that new code can break existing code. And that's common for developers' code that you are testing, but also it's your code too, because your automation is also a code, right? So it happens very frequently where you add new test cases and then you end up breaking your existing test cases.
Yeah. So, sorry, I interrupt you, but I have a question related to this part. So when we're talking about CI/CD process, what I mentioned, that is about like the whole scope of creating the software. But we have our local scope when we make pull requests for our framework, right? So it's kind of nested nested deployment process, because we have to take reviews on our test cases. We have to make sure that we merge correctly, that everything is not broken and our framework is still working.
Yep.
Should we mention on that as well? Should we describe it like a separate cycle, or what do you say? What do you think?
Yeah, for sure. You can go that way too. Yeah. Yeah, like I think
But
like
it's simply usually it's simpler, right? It's not like pull requests, reviews, then like all the tests. Is it or exactly the same?
depending on the team size, like when I worked at CME Group, basically in both companies I worked for, it was pretty like that. Like I write new test cases and then I create a PR, because unless I get an approval, I can't merge it. So and then I would get a lot of reviews in my first year. Then when I became second year, new people joined. Then I would give them a hard time with a lot of comments. So and then yeah, the process is just like we are talking about.
Exactly the same. Okay.
Because the goal, like the goal is to make sure you are adding the code you are writing, pushing is high quality code, because code can be bullshit quality easily, and you can't allow bullshit code to go into, master branch.
Right.
That's where the difference between high quality software engineering teams and bullshit quality software engineering teams comes. Okay. And then you need to highlight that you have a system, you have, again, like whenever the biggest value you can bring to a team is you can bring a system, a process, a system that ensures only high quality code is being pushed to master branch. And only high quality code is being delivered to the customers. Really, just like if you think about it, that's the ultimate goal. And then you ensure it systematically. It's not like you as a human, yeah, you can not follow anything and like do an amazing job, but then the system means you set it up, and doesn't matter who comes in from developers team, from QA team, you have these good check marks that always ensures that it stops bad code as early as possible. And this PR stuff is like one of those things. So for Jenkins, PR for team members, so you are adding new 10 test cases. Let's say you have 500 test cases. Now, whenever, as soon as the PR is merged, my automation kicks in to run all the regression with newly added test cases to ensure existing test cases are stable and didn't break or are not broken. Yeah, this is done on Jenkins. Make sense?
Yeah. Should we mention that not all the automation test running appropriate, because sometimes that might be ongoing processes which can be ruined by automation here.
Like somebody might be running it and stuff.
Yeah.
Good question. Good question. Yeah, I mean, you can say like you have maybe 2 QA environments for automation. One for just regression only, ran by Jenkins, another one just for you guys ad hoc running.
Okay.
Yeah, Docker part, Linux part, it was like you did get to the point, but I think it needs to be a little bit ironed out to make it more smoother. But for Linux and Docker, go to the point, right? For example, what you say is for deploying, basically, what do you use for Linux and Docker for? Yeah, for deploying the newest or the most recent versions of the app under test. Or like you can even say our apps are deployed on Linux and Docker containers. So I am proficient, or like I use Docker commands to deploy the newest versions of the app of the app under test as necessary. Okay, I'm gonna necessary as necessary. What else? As necessary. Okay. As well as for troubleshooting the app by reading the logs of the container of the app. Yeah, logs of the app using Linux commands.
Yeah, logs and config files.
Yep. Sometimes I have to edit the app config files as well. So I use vim command for that. That's it. And then like you can then say, this is my DevOps engineer always jokes that I'm the least.
I'm stealing his breath.
No. That I'm the least buggy person. Then I'm the least buggy QA he or she has ever seen. Like she has ever seen, or he has ever seen.
All right.
Now, like in a joke way, but this is a huge deal you are telling, right? Cool. On CI/CD, yeah, it's fine. CI/CD is fine. You basically explain me the whole process, and you can say, hey, like basically our DevOps engineer does it. I kind of know all the steps. I haven't really had an opportunity to dive into like too much details, but I know what's going on, so I can figure it out if I have to. But I provide them a stable Jenkins job for running any kind of test, smoke, regression, API, UI, sanity, whatever. You just tell me, provide you that Jenkins job for sure. Really.
Should you mention sanity suites, or it's pretty rare on the market?
Sanity suite is what is sanity suite, guys? Okay. Who wants to answer? Very good job, Dennis. You're there. You're there. You're working for sure.
Okay, I do my best. Thank you.
What is sanity? Anyone? What is sanity testing?
Yelena has it in her first job, and she mentioned about that a lot.
What is it? Can you go? You go ahead, Dennis.
Yeah, so the main difference between Sanity and smoke test, Sanity is like more lightweighted suite, which we regularly run like every morning, for example. It's gonna contain like 200, 300 test cases, and where we just like what is the smoke that we have to make sure that the crucial functionality works fine. But like sanity test, sanity suite takes place, then we just deployed small patches or we just implemented some small improvements. And when we need to make sure that the rest of the application related to this feature works fine. So it's going to be like not a regression, but it's just it might be like 50 or 100 test cases, but related to particular feature. And also, it usually sanity sanity testing is not automated. That's run manually when you need it.
Hold on.
But that's why I ask this question. It's not clear how it's practically used in companies. Is it rare or often on the market to use that kind of suites?
I lost this one. Okay, there you go. For sanity test, let's see what ChatGPT says about sanity, because I have my own version. Like, I think I have enough. Definitely have
I
enough.
have a note here. I remember Elena, she mentioned that it's done for new features and also for very basic functionalities after the bug fix. It's kind of regression, but lower level. Happens before the release of the product, before actual regression.
Yep. A sanity, yeah. ChatGPT and I are aligned. So a sanity test is quick, narrow test performed to verify that a specific function or feature works as expected after minor changes, such as bug fixes or updates. It's usually conducted before moving on more thorough tests like regression testing to ensure the code is functioning well enough for further examination. So sanity test is like, you think about a developer works on the feature, and every developer wants to test their stuff before they say it's done. Usually that's the case. Now, but this is also like where you guys can, like if you guys want to keep shooting into rockstar, superstar QA, this is also where you can win, guys. Every developer wants to test their code before telling others it's ready, or before telling QAs essentially, right? Telling QAs it's ready. But the problem, guys, what's the problem? What do you guys think the problem here?
We have written test cases, but he doesn't.
Yeah. But the problem is that they don't necessarily have enough tests to run in dev environment, essentially, right? Or in dev environment or quickly. So this is a problem by itself. Like now your task is here. If this is a problem, the task is create a framework that can run that can test given group of features on demand in dev environment. So, for example, if somebody worked on, I don't know if your example, right, Zillow, if somebody worked on filter option and they're making some changes into the filter option, but you already have lots of test cases on the filter option. Now, I don't necessarily want you to run the whole regression, but can you please tell me this like feature, these filter option features work or no? And can I do it without telling you to do it as a QA? Now, like sanity testing is essentially when developers ask you, hey, I worked on this price filtering option functionality. Can you please test it very quickly? And then you just go and then use the tags like Cucumber tags or whatever and test it. But that's sanity testing when developers request you to test something very specific. Now the best way would be like, how can you set something up so that developers can do it themselves? And we had it. When I worked at CME Group, it was great. So you basically in Jenkins, you can create a Jenkins job which can take parameters. Which can take Cucumber tags as parameters. Like what are parameters, guys? What are parameters?
So parameters allows us to create dynamic program. So if you use tags as a parameter, you just easily replace the tag and the whole run is gonna be executed.
Yep. So
without like manually changing every single line.
Yep. Methods, Java methods have parameters, yeah. Cucumber steps, you can parameterize them. So like dynamic, you can pass parameter during the runtime. So before running it. So create a Jenkins job which can take Cucumber tags as parameters that will run tests. That will run tests for those for the given features based on the tags, based on the Cucumber tags. Boom.
So in CME group, they had access to a framework. They can do it themselves. All they ask you.
No, they don't. I mean, like technically they had access to it, but they didn't care to clone it and like use it, and they didn't have to. If they have to like clone your code and stuff, it's too much work for them.
Yeah.
So, but we had a Jenkins job, which they could just, specify the branch, their dev branch, and like the Cucumber tags, and hit the run button, and it would, it would go and basically build the app based on their development branch and run features that are matches this Cucumber tag. So perform sanity test.
So Jenkins allows developers not to ask QAs, but run particular related to particular feature test cases without asking any help, just by themselves.
Yep. And I mean, in our case, like because our regression really took only like 10-15 minutes because it was fully backend API stuff. And we as QA team required them to run regression before they make a PR merge, before they even make a PR against.
So there is no if your regression takes like 15 minutes, there is no reason to use sanity.
Yeah, exactly. So like our regression was kind of used like a sanity, but it was a regression. That's
Right.
that's where you wanna get. That's the perfection. That's perfection in automation. Now, why did we started requiring developers to run the whole regression before they create a PR is because if if their code wasn't tested properly and the PR was created and it was merged, it comes to QA, your QA environment is gonna fail, right? Your regression is gonna fail. Then the QA is have to go troubleshoot, find out, create a bug, document, add screenshots, add steps to reproduce, all the work you have to put in. Like for whenever these features fail, even in the QA, like the general industry standard is if you find bugs in QA environment, it's great, right? My standards are like don't even do something so that they don't like you minimize the amount of bugs even come to QA. That's the best. Why? Because then QAs are not gonna be spending their time on documenting bugs. QAs will spend more time on covering more features, adding more test cases.
Right.
So we are not missing anything. So that's why developers would run all the regression, and only if everything passed, they can create a PR. If something failed, it knows like, because we know their specific branch is causing that issue. So like it's clear that it's that person who did it. So they go and fix it. And then that's how we ensure the stability of our regression in the QA environment. And this word, stability of regression, automated regression testing QA environment is so big because I guarantee you 90% of or 99% of automated regressions are just always red. Something is wrong all the time because like there are 5 developers, only 2 QAs, 5 developers work hard, they push code every day, and someone is gonna break something for sure. So it's very hard to keep up. It's depressing when your regression is not stable. So that's why this approach was revolutionary. It was amazing. It worked well. And then when I went to Apple, and then the same story again, we didn't have that process. And I didn't have enough time to like implement that process. So like we had to do like just a lot of bugs in QA. Cool. That's the one thing you guys can share as your biggest accomplishment.
Could you share this Notion file with us?
I will share this in where should I share it? I'm gonna share it in announcements. Book